Pretty tune right there. Nina Never Knew. And that's Kenny Soderblom and his quartet, recorded a couple of years back. And joining us right now on the program is Mr. Soderblom. Ken, how are you tonight? Thanks for being with us.
Well, I'm just great, Doug. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you. And I know you were up in New York recently doing some concerts up with Dick Hyman. How did they go?
Well, I've done that now a couple of times, and it was just an honor to be invited because I was the only non-New Yorker in the band. And that happened 2 years ago. And of course, Dick is, well, what can you say about him? He's an icon. And it was all the top guys in New York. It was just a thrill. Had a great time.
Over the 92nd Street Y?
Yeah, the 92nd Street Y.
Yeah, they do a lot of wonderful programs over there.
Yeah, they do. Unfortunately for the audiences and for the Y, this was, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, this was Dick's retirement from the series.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think this is the last one he's doing. I hope I don't overstate it, but I'm pretty sure that's what was happening. He's been doing it, I think, for 20 years or more.
Yeah, I know he's been a fixture. He usually goes up there for the summer.
Yeah.
He lives down in our area, for the listeners that don't know that. Yeah.
It's just a thrill to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. New York always seems to have some kind of jazz festival going on during the summer. I don't know if it's still used to be the Cool Jazz Festival, then it was JVC. I don't even know if they have a sponsor anymore, but there's always a lot of jazz around New York City. So
I think JVC is still, I'm not really sure, but some of the festivals have changed a little bit too, due to the musical taste changes.
Right.
Yeah, I think George Wein doesn't always call it the JVC Jazz Festival. It's the JVC Music Festival, and it encompasses some other music too. Although there's still some great jazz stuff that happens. I mean, there's so many wonderful, wonderful people. It's I wish we could find ways to expose some of these great people to audiences, because many of them will never be heard.
It is a shame, yeah, that what I guess you would call traditional jazz. There's also another term they call smooth jazz, and that's a whole other program. And it's fine music, but it's not really jazz. But yeah, what you would call a traditional jazz, what you play, and Dick Hyman, and a lot of the artists don't get a lot of airplay anymore, which is a shame.
It's unfortunate, but everything is based on sales, I guess. And our icons are Britney Spears and people like that.
That's right.
And I don't begrudge any of them anything, but. I remember the days when Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan or Rosemary Clooney or Tony Bennett or any one of them just walk out on the stage with a piano and dazzle the audience.
Oh, yeah. Sadly, I guess one of, you talk about Rosemary Clooney, one of her final performances was down here, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, matter of fact, I booked her on that one. Because I'd worked with her for many years. With probably those were among the high points of my life, having a chance to play behind her, because I love playing behind singers, and especially one like Rosemary. It was always an honor. I told her, I said, every time I work with you, I get a music lesson.
Yeah, she started out as a band singer, I think, with her sister, didn't she?
Yeah.
And then did more pop stuff in the 50s, but then turned back to pretty much traditional jazz in her later years, for the last 20 years, I guess, didn't she?
I guess you'd say that, yeah, pretty much like Sinatra, just all the good stuff, nothing but good music.
Yeah. Yeah, she was singing well up to the end, and then, of course, she had some health problems and passed away about a year ago.
Yeah, that was really very sad.
Talking about some of the younger performers, we were lucky last week, and I know this is somebody you've worked with. Tierney Sutton was on for a few minutes. And
I knew that, and I wanted so much to be able to get in on that somehow, but I was in a hospital. I've got 2 new knees.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that.
No, I don't mind.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm happy I have them.
I know, yeah. I'm glad. We're glad you're doing better, and that's not always a lot of fun to go through, but I'm sure you were in some pain, and this will relieve that anyway.
Oh, yeah, and I had a wonderful surgeon, and I no longer look like a cowboy.
Yeah.
I had bone on bone, and I became bow-legged, which I never had been. But now I guess I'm taller and straighter.
That's great, yeah. Well, all the, I guess, plastics they use now in those artificial joints, it's almost as good as new, isn't it?
I guess so. I mean, I'm counting on it. I just finished doing my therapy. I have a therapist that I'll be seeing her again tomorrow, but in between I have to do it myself, and Leah's been helping me. Leah, by the way, is over at Madison Steakhouse tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to give a plug for Leah, and well, you'll be rejoining her over at Madison's and Euphemia Hale. Don't you play there as well?
I'll be back as soon as I can, probably within a week or at least, I would say 2. And she's her CD is out now.
Yeah, we want to get a copy down here as soon as you can get it to us.
Yes, we certainly do want to get it down there. And someday, if you got a little space, we'd love to come down and play for it.
Absolutely, yeah. We're working on that for our listeners that are just joining us and on the Internet. Not only do we want to do the great recorded music, not only of artists that are around the world, but our local artists. We have so many great jazz artists like Kenny Soderblom and Leah and Dick Hyman that live down here, and we want to feature them, and not only as guests, but if they can come down and perform, that's wonderful.
Well, you've been doing a great job, Doug.
Oh, thanks. Well, it's a lot of fun.
We sure need you, I'll tell you that.
2 hours a week, it's a good start, and who knows if the audience likes it, maybe we'll have more. But anyway, yeah, 2 hours a week we get this on. I just want to talk a couple of minutes. We've been doing a little promotion for this concert coming up on October 19th for John LaPorta. Just some of your thoughts on John.
Well, I wish, it always happens after somebody passes away. I wish I'd had more chances to spend with John just as a person, because not only was he such a wonderful musician, but he was really a wonderful man, and he encouraged so many young musicians. I mean, in so many ways, he was an educator, great player, arranger, composer, a great respecter of the icons. I mean, all of the greats. I can't. I'm a little bit tongue-tied because there's so much you can say about John, and I can't.
Yeah, we had Jack Brokenshaw on and Gunnar Jacobson, 2 of the people that are helping put this concert together, and just listening to their stories about him. Not only was he a great performer, but he did a lot education-wise at Berkeley and locally too.
Oh, yes, very much so.
Yeah. So.
And that band he put together at Riverview High School was astonishing. I remember there was a party. Some kind of event for the jazz club, and there was I won't mention the name of the band, but there was a high-profile local big band plus the Riverview High School band. And I went up to the kids, and I said, you guys sound better than the big band. I mean, They didn't have the finesse, and they didn't have the polish and the strong soloists. But what John did with those kids is he made them listen. So it sounded like a group. It didn't sound like a bunch of guys just reading arrangements, which often big bands can be. They're still good, but those kids had a special thing going, and it was all because of John. He taught them the importance of listening. And I played in sections with John many times, and he was a great listener. He would follow, and he would always be right where you're supposed to be. Again, it's. You can put a bunch of great players together, and the band is really not very good. But if you put a bunch of John LaPortas together, the band sounds great because everybody's listening to the guy next to him. And that's what he did with those kids. And I never forgot that. I had a lump in my throat when I went up to him and told him that they sounded better than the pro band. Yeah,
I saw them maybe 3 or 4 years ago now when one of the Saturday jams that they have down here. And I think they had John LaPorta bring down the Riverview band for that jam for the middle hour, and they were wonderful.
Yeah, they really were.
Yeah, October 19th is the date.
That's the big day.
Over at the Opera House, and I believe tickets go on sale September 7th, so we'll let you know here on this station and how you can get them, because the proceeds are going to go to his educational scholarship fund, I believe. So,
that's terrific.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, that's really terrific.
But just for some of our listeners that don't know your background, obviously, not only with jazz, but you did a lot of commercial work in Chicago, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I guess thousands of TV and radio commercials. Among them, I guess my claim to fame is that I played on Where's the Beef.
Did you?
That's
great.
The one that people remember. I don't care as long as they spell their name right on the check.
That's
I don't really care.
The residuals still come in on that.
But I love that. I love that work because every session was a challenge. You never knew what you were going to play. They'd say, bring your piccolo and your bass sax, and you wouldn't even know when you got there what you were going to do. And so it was always a challenge to do the best you could at whatever it was. One time you're supposed to sound like Kenny G, another time like Stan Getz, another time like Boots Randolph, and we had to do all that stuff, and it's really a lot of fun.
That was based out of Chicago for the
Yeah, I
most
was
part?
in Chicago. That was until I moved here. Chicago was my home, and then I was lucky enough to get into contracting orchestras, hiring musicians for performers like Rosemary and Tony Bennett. I worked with Tony for about 15 years out of Chicago. Every time he'd come to the Midwest, I would get his band for him, and Nancy Wilson and quite a few others. So I was really very, very lucky to have the experiences that I did.
Oh, yeah. For a lot of people that may not know, musicians usually travel with, I guess, with their rhythm section, and then whatever city they're in, people like yourself would have to book the surrounding band.
That's
right?
it.
Yeah.
And I told Tony one time, I said, I'm sure when you're in New York, you don't have any problems. Because he'd had a guy in New York and me in the Midwest and a guy in California and other people around the country. And he said, oh, no. He said, if you don't get the right contractor in New York, I don't care how many great musicians there are, you could have a lousy band. So that made me feel good. Because,
oh, yeah.
the contractor is very important.
Yeah, you want those professional musicians because they bring their book of music with them, and they want to sound good everywhere they go.
Oh,
so
sure.
That's a very important
Sure.
thing. Yeah. Yeah, you work with all the greats, and we were fortunate to have Nancy Wilson on our noon show not too long ago, and she has a new CD out, and still sounding as good as if you listen to her old CDs and this one, just great.
Well, she started out sort of as a jazz singer. When I first worked with her in Chicago, I think I was the first big band that backed her, and Cannonball Adderley's group opened.
Mm.
Oh, it was a wonderful evening, and she came out of Dinah, Washington.
Right.
And I guess she was more of a jazz singer when she started, and then she went through a lot of different phases, as probably everyone had to survive. But she's back to being a jazz singer again, and I don't know how much she's working now.
She told us she's on a tour for the CD, but she wants to hang it up basically at the end of this tour. So I guess she's tired of traveling, but I think maybe she'll take a little rest. I would think she'll do occasional shows. At least I hope she will.
Well, I hope so, because she's too good to in my view, from this business you never retire.
No,
I don't see how anyone could. I just love being able to play music, and I'm going to play it until I drop.
Talking with Kenny Soderblom, just got a couple more minutes. I want to ask you, Kenny, what do you think of the jazz scene locally down here, particularly in Sarasota? Have you found it increasing as far as places for you to play? Do you think it's improving at all, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. That's always a very difficult. There really are not very many places to play. I feel very fortunate that Lee and I have the two that we have. We play Euphemia Hay on Fridays and Madison's Steakhouse on Sundays for the summer, and I think we're going back to Thursdays. But now I think Paul Madison's opening another place in Siesta Key, if it isn't open by now already.
Oh, great!
And you always hear of other places. I hope they open, because there are a lot of really good musicians around here, and they should be heard.
Particularly downtown here on Main Street, they really need a good jazz place down here.
Yeah, there were a couple of places that were doing okay, and then I don't know what happened. I know that what's the name of the grill? Gosh,
yeah, I know what you mean.
You know the one I mean,
right? I can't think of it either, but I know what you mean. Yeah, down by the movie theaters.
Yeah,
yeah,
and they've changed.
Yeah, they keep changing
policies,
ownership there.
You can't blame people who own restaurants are in business to make money, and I think jazz takes a little patience. Once they give it a chance, and the audiences are going to show up. But people have to know where you are, what you're doing, and you can't say, okay, I think I'll have jazz and try it for a weekend or two, and if it doesn't work, then say, well, that was a mistake. But you can't. You have to give it a little time.
One thing about jazz audiences, they're probably the most loyal of any art form, don't you think?
I think they are, yes. I think they are.
Yeah. Well, Ken, it's been a pleasure to talk to you for a couple of minutes on the air tonight. We're glad your knees are getting better, and I hope you get back out performing real soon. I know you will, and we look forward to seeing you down here real soon.
Well, we'll look forward to it, Doug, and thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Very good. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks.